Today we are learning section 2.5 and we are learning how to solve equations by adding or subtracting. Our main goal, which we did a little bit of this last year, our main goal is to get the variable, or the letter, get the letter, I'm going to write letter up here so I don't forget, by itself. And we'll talk about how we do that, but how we do that is we use the inverse, which means the opposite. So right now we're going to, instead of saying opposite all the time, I'm going to keep saying opposite operations. Right now we are going to use the inverse operation to undo that number or to get rid of it. So I have like 10 examples or 11 examples. We're going to go through so we can really understand this. So our first one is m plus 17 equals 21. So what I need to do is I need to get rid of this positive 17 here so that I can get m all by itself. Now my second goal up here, it said use the inverse or the opposite operations. Remember, our operations are adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. In this case we are adding. So the opposite of adding is subtracting. We've talked about that a lot. The opposite of adding is subtracting. So how I do that is, right now I have adding 17, so to both sides I'm going to subtract 17. Okay, 17 minus 17 is 0, so on this side I get m equals, then I have to subtract on this side, 21 minus 17. Okay, I can't take 7 away from 1, so I have to cross that out, make it a 1. Cross that out, make it an 11. 11 minus 7 is 4. 1 minus 1 is 0. So my answer is m equals 4. That is how we solve our equation. This is our answer right here. M equals 4. All I did was I found the opposite operation of what was already in there, and I did it to both sides of the equal sign. If I do it to one side of the equal sign, I have to do it to the other side so that I make sure I'm even. Alright, let's do another example. Okay, this problem is saying y minus 34 equals 43. So I have to find the opposite of my operation sign. Opposite of subtracting is a plus, and I need to add 34 to both sides. Okay, and this is a step that I need to see in your work. This step right here. I need to see that you're doing it to both sides. Because as you'll see as we get farther into this, you're going to have to do multiple steps. So if we're doing multiple steps and you forget a sign, you forget something, we're in big trouble. Okay, so you must show your work on these. So if I have a negative 34 and I add 34, my answer is going to be 0. So I get y is left by itself, which is our goal. 43 plus 34, if I add that up, 3 plus 4 is 7, 4 plus 3 is 7. So my answer is y equals 77. Alright, let's go on to number 3. Okay, this is where we really need to know our adding and subtracting integers, which is positive and negative numbers. So right now, I have a positive sign right here, so I need to do the opposite and subtract. So I'm going to subtract 9 from both sides. So I get x by itself on one side because not a positive 9. Subtracting, if I subtract 9 from a positive 9, I get 0. Okay, and then on this side, I have two negative 9s. They are both the same sign, so I'm going to add them, but my number is going to be negative. How I've been telling a couple of the kids how to do this is, I owe somebody $9. Okay, and I owe somebody else $9. So if I owe two people $9, I have to ask myself, because owe means negative, I have to ask myself, how much money do I owe in total? I owe $18. I have to pay people $18. So I owe, there's that subtracting sign right there, $18. Okay, so our answer is x equals negative 18. Let's do some more examples. Alright, now I have one that says 24 equals k minus 2. So I have to do the opposite of subtracting. I have to add 2 to both sides. And remember, the reason why I'm always looking at this side is I'm looking at the side that has the variable. Because going back to the first slide, our goal is to get that variable by itself. So I have a positive 2 and I have a negative 2 and a positive 2. They zero each other out, so I'm left with just a k on this side of the equal sign. Then I have 24 plus 2, so I get 26. K equals 26. Alright, number 7 says 18 plus n minus 7 equals 44. A couple videos ago, we talked about combining like terms. That's what I would definitely recommend for you on this one. I see I have an 18 that I can add to a negative 7. You guys, this is where we talked about it. You're going to think it's a positive 7, but we need to be careful of the sign that's in front of it because we need to change that to a plus a negative 7. So if I have 18 plus a negative 7, I can do 18 minus 7 and get my answer, which is 11. Bring down plus n equals 44. I need to bring everything down. These two, I already crossed those out. 18 and negative 7, got rid of those. So now I'm left with 11 plus n. So again, I'm looking at this sign right here. So that means I need to subtract 11 from both sides. And I will be left with 33. N equals 33. So there is my answer. Again, we're looking. Can we combine like terms? That's what we need to do first, is combine those like terms because that makes our work very easy. Then we can just go through, use the inverse operation, and get the variable by itself. Alright, example number 8. I have 15 equals 7 plus h plus 14. I want to get my variables, and I want to combine my like terms, not my variables. So I need to do 14 plus 7 and get 21 plus h equals 15. Bring down all of my terms that I haven't, oops, not that one, that I haven't used yet. Erase that so we don't get confused. Okay, so now I have 15 equals h plus 21. Again, this is where they were going to use our adding and subtracting inverse operations here. So I have to do 21. Opposite would be minus 21 to both sides. Okay, now think about it. If I have $15 in my account and I owe somebody 21, I'm going to go from having a positive balance of 15 to a negative balance. So I know my answer is going to be negative. They're opposite, so I'm going to go 21 minus 15. Whenever they are opposite signs, when we are adding or subtracting, we need to subtract them. So I can cross out my 2, make it a 1, cross out my 1, make it an 11. 11 minus 5 is 6, 1 minus 1 is 0. So my answer is a negative 6 when I add those together. So my answer is h equals a negative 6. And you guys, if you ever need to check your answer, you can always go back and plug in negative 6 for h and see if they equal each other out. We'll do that with the next problem because I want to make sure I have room, and right now I'm running out of room here. So let's do number 9. 19 equals c minus a negative 12. Remember these. When we have two negatives, it makes one positive. We don't add a negative, we just add a positive number. How I can explain that better is, okay, I have $5 in my account, and I owe $3 to somebody. Then I say, wait, never mind, you don't owe me $3. Then I can add 5 plus 3 and put that back into my account, and now I have 8. So if I owe $3, then they say, never mind, you don't do that, you don't owe me any money anymore. Then that goes back into my account. Okay, so that's just kind of a way to think of it. When you have two negatives, they make one positive. Let me erase that so we have space to check our answer. Alright, so now I can rewrite my number sentence by saying 19 equals c plus 12. Okay, so I need to do the opposite. So I need to minus 12, subtract 12 from both sides. I would get 0. Then I would get c equals 19 minus 12. 9 minus 2 is 7. So I would get c equals 7 for my answer. So we can check that. Let's check it. 19 equals 7 minus a negative 12, which really is saying 19 equals 7 plus 12. 7 plus 12 is 19 equals 19. We know it checks out because that is a true statement. 19 does equal 19. Check out, we're good to go. And problem number 10, this is our last problem, then we'll do a quick word problem before you get to start doing your lessons. So now I have x plus a negative 2 equals negative 66. So here, this is where it gets a little tricky. I have plus, so that means I need to subtract a negative 2, x minus a negative 2, because we got to keep that number the same in the parentheses, equals negative 66. So really, subtracting a negative is like adding a positive. So really what I'm doing is I'm adding 2 to both sides. So these two cross out, they both make a positive. They are going to make a 0. They're zeroing out. So I have x equals negative 66 plus 2. So my account, I owe people $66, but then one of my friends owed me $2. They give me $2 back. So now how much money do I still owe? Because I'm going to use that $2 to pay my friend off. So I have negative 66 plus 2. So that would make a negative 64. Okay? Again, if you want to think of it in terms of rules, I have opposite signs. So I take the bigger number, which is 66, and I subtract it from the smaller number because they're opposites. So we're going to subtract, and I would get 64. Then I look back at my problem and I say, what's bigger, 66 or is 2 bigger? Well, 66 is the biggest number. So then I look at that sign for 66, and it is a negative sign. So I know my answer is going to be a negative number. Again, if we want to check that, I can write negative 64 plus a negative 2 equals negative 66. Negative 64, okay, I owe my friend $64, and then I owe somebody else $2, so my answer would be negative 66 equals negative 66. You guys, I would totally recommend, if you're taking a test, if you're doing a quiz, check your answer. Check it, because that you know you did it right. And be really careful when we're adding and subtracting, because it's really easy to go really fast. And maybe something like right in here, you would forget, oh hey, that's right. If I'm adding a negative, then I need to subtract a negative, which is really adding a positive. And I don't want you to get all mixed up with the wrong sign. So please take your time on these. Be very careful. Make sure you're carrying down the right numbers so that you get the right answer at the end. There are so many steps we're doing here. You really have to watch it on what you're doing. Alright, lastly, you are going to have some word problems on your homework. So I wanted to do one quickly for you. Number 11 is a soft cover book costs $17, less than a hardcover book edition. The soft cover book costs $5. Write an equation and solve. Okay, so here's what I know. A soft cover book costs $17 less than. Hey, you guys, what do we think of when we see less than? We can't just write it normally. That's what I always tell you. Whenever I see less than, I need to switch it. So I have $17 less than its hardcover edition. We can pick any variable we want. We want to know how much does the hardcover edition cost. So if I'm going to use the variable h, minus, not equals, h minus 17 equals $5. So the soft cover book, which is right here, costs $17 less than the hardcover book. We want to know how much the hardcover book costs. So let's add 17 to both sides. Over on here, I would get 22. So h equals 22. So the hardcover book equals $22. We can check our work. 22 minus 17 equals 5. 22 minus 17 is 5. So 5 equals 5. That checks out. I know a lot of times last year I had you do check. Yes, it checks. But really, you guys, that's the best way to check your answer. Just plug that h, or whatever variable you're using, back into the original problem, and you should get the equation should be equal on both sides. That's all I have for you today. Again, please remember, come in early if you have a question, come in at lunch if you have a question, come in after school if you have a question. I would say before school or after school is best because there's not so many people in my room, but just please come in and ask a question or ask during math class. Thank you for watching.